Thousands of refugees in Europe rely on aid workers for essential help, but a growing number of volunteers are facing arrest and prosecution as countries discourage people seeking asylum. I'm Femi Oke.
I'm Malika Bilal. Today we'll hear about the impact of legal action against humanitarians and how aid groups are fighting to keep protecting the vulnerable. Send your thoughts through Twitter and YouTube.
The recent arrest of a German boat captain who brought 40 shipwrecked refugees into an Italian port has highlighted the legal risks humanitarians across Europe face when providing help to people fleeing war and persecution.
Carola Rackete was held after her vessel Seawatch 3 collided with a border patrol boat while disregarding orders not to dock at Lampedusa. She was put under house arrest, but a judge later ruled she should be freed, pending further investigation. The Seawatch organization welcomed the ruling.
To view a humanitarian ship carrying people rescued at sea and which just wants to bring them safely to a safe harbor as the biggest and most urgent threat to security and public order makes this country look ridiculous. I would therefore say that at least yesterday's ruling reestablishes a little order with respect to the hierarchy of norms and also reestablishes the dignity of this country.
Scores of other aid volunteers have also been arrested or prosecuted. In 2018, Sarah Mardini was arrested by Greek police while working for Emergency Response Centre International. She was charged with people smuggling, money laundering and espionage and is on bail while the case against her remains open.
Sarah is just one of 104 humanitarians in Europe who were investigated or prosecuted in connection with their work in 2018. That's according to the research social platform on migration and asylum.
Joining us to discuss this, Sean Binder. He's a rescue coordinator who has worked on both land and sea operations to save and support refugees. He's in the Irish city of Cork.
Salam Al-Din is founder of Team Humanity, a Danish organization providing aid to refugees in Greece. He joins us from Lesbos.
Elisa De Pieri is a researcher at Amnesty International's Europe office. She joins us from London. Hello, everybody. It's good to have you here to tell this story. Talking about stories, Sean, you are in the headlines right now. Salam, you have been in the headlines and you continue to be in the headlines. We will get to your stories. But I want the audience to know, Sean, what it is that you've done to warrant this headline in the Irish Times. Irish charity worker charged with human trafficking released on bail. Here's your mum holding up your university graduation picture there. Sean, what's your work? What have you been up to that's landed you in so much trouble?
Right, and I think it's really important to start off by saying that my work isn't that unique. I went having been trained in search and rescue, being a rescue diver and having some experience in that line of work. I went after my master's studies to Lesbos, really just to assist where I could with the search and rescue operations that are still being undertaken. Although there's been a decline in numbers of crossings into Europe, there has been a rise in the percentage of deaths occurring during that transit. And so I felt it was important to try and lend some assistance if I could.
So you went to help and now you're facing a prison sentence. Join those two dots. What happened?
Right. So for the better part of 3 months, I had been working on the search and rescue vessels and on the shoreline as an emergency responder. And then in 2018, in January, I began taking over the coordination role of search and rescue with the same organization Sarah Mardini was in, ERCI. And I continued coordination. We wanted to expand the kind of operations that we did, particularly with other civilian search and rescue organizations. Essentially what we did was nightly search and rescue missions, along with managing a clinic for emergency cases in one of the primary refugee camps in Europe called Moria. And then we were arrested in February. The police came at around 2:30 in the morning. We were at the shoreline undertaking a rescue mission, and we were detained for a number of days. And then we were released without any charge or really any accusations being built after they'd investigated our premises. And then we continued working as normal, cooperating with the authorities. And it wasn't until August I had returned back to the island from a brief visit from family tragedy back in Ireland. And a week later, we were arrested again. But this time we were in prison for 3.5 months. Right. And we were charged with a number of heinous crimes, as you alluded to, that is illegally assisting aliens into Greece, money laundering, espionage, right, and being part of a criminal organization, all of which could land us, if we're found guilty, 25 years in prison.
And Sean, because you spent more than 100 days in a Greek jail, there was an outpouring of support and protest online and on the streets. I wanted to share with our audience, in case they weren't familiar with what this looked like. So this was outside of the embassy in Greece in Dublin. This is in 2018 in solidarity with you and your colleagues. You can see people gathered there and posted online by Enda Fanning here. Others sharing their support. This is Free Humanitarians out there for a rally. Norma and Zach said, "We went to uni with Sean Binder. He's caring. He's always tried to make a difference for the better." And you can see the rescuers there. Your case, of course, is not the only one. So I wanted to share this tweet for you, Salam. This is Sophie Woodhouse, who says, "Salam al-Din runs Team Humanities Center for Women and Children. He's dedicated his life to helping refugees." You can see a bit of a celebrity there, people wanting to pose with you because of the work you're doing, Salam. But something similar happened to you. Talk to us about what inspired you to do this work in the first place.
So I saw a picture. That's what changed my life, actually. A picture of Alan Kurdi in 2015. I saw it on the 3rd September, and then I arrived on Lesbos on the 5th September on my birthday. And I came to something I never seen in my life. I went to the shores of Molivos. It's a city in Lesbos. And what I saw was 3 boats coming to the shore, and there was nobody to help them. So there was no UN, there was no police, there was no Coast Guard, no one. I jumped into the water to help one boat, and then second boat I had to swim 100 meters to bring the boat because the engine stopped. And the third boat was stopped like over 1 kilometer away. And all this, what I saw, made me actually sad and angry. I didn't know what to do. I was alone there, and for that week, I went there. I saw a lot of tragedies. I saw people died in front of me, children drowning. So I went to Denmark, and 3 days after, I arrived back on Lesbos with 30 people, and I started the organization Team Humanity. And what we did was, every single day and night, without sleeping, we were rescuing people in the sea.
Salam, I'm going to show people what this looks like, because those pictures tell so much, the same way that when you saw a picture, it moved you. I want people to see what you're actually doing with your colleagues at Team Humanity. So tell us about this shot. What is happening here?
There was a boat on the way to the shores, and it got stuck. The weather was not so good. We went swimming, me and one from my team. And then we brought the boat back, but the boat was full with water, and especially this child was sitting in the back of the boat. And on the back of the boat, where the engine is, it's full with water there. And as you see, the child is crying and screaming because the child thought they will die, or drowning.
And then another shot here. Different day? Different situation?
This is a different day. This was the beginning. This was September month. There was a boat with 230 people arrived to the shore, and they couldn't get down. And we had to, as you see, I had to have 1 foot on the big rock and another foot on the boat to get them out from there. And this is small babies that came. As you see, they didn't even have life jackets. And that boat is a dangerous boat. They could have sunk in the middle of the sea, and nobody will help them. Nobody could help them.
Elisa, what is extraordinary about this is that Sean and Salam are talking about the volunteering work they're doing, the work they're doing to help refugees or migrants who are in dire circumstances and may well be saving lives. They're saving lives. Why did Salam face a criminal charges? Why is Sean waiting to go on trial? It's hard to imagine what they did that was wrong? Can you explain the framework in Europe that means that they can actually face charges and go to prison? That's a possibility.
They did absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, I think their humanity shines through. They're lovely people and did exactly what a good Samaritan should do. The problem is that European leaders have focused in the last few years in preventing arrivals. And in their efforts to prevent arrivals, they have started to look for all the possible ways to avoid people seeking protection and better life opportunities reaching Europe. And they realized that they could also block arrivals through blocking rescues at sea by organizations, volunteers. This has created a problem because there are competing, there are obligations to rescue people at sea. People like Shan and Salam were living up to those international obligations, but states have focused on their national laws, which make it a crime to cross borders irregularly. And so many of these volunteers, individuals, organizations are being investigated and prosecuted for crimes that have to do with crossing a border irregularly. So generally it's abetting irregular migration, but in some cases there are surreal charges like facilitate trafficking, and in the case that you were showing at the beginning, the case of the Seawatch captain, also, she's been accused of trying to sink a warboat in Italian territorial waters in the process of bringing people to safety. So states are really using a range of criminal procedures and criminal conduct to try to hit at humanitarians.
Elisa, you mentioned Carola Rackete's case, and there was so much comment about that online. This is Amina, who says, Carola simply enforced human rights at sea, and this push towards criminalizing heroes and helpers across Europe and Northern Africa that help refugees and asylum seekers is one we all have to watch and call out for. And that comment is one that is what elicited a response from someone who sent us a video comment. She talked to us about the push and the pull of what forces refugees onto foreign shores. This is Salma, and here's what she told The Stream.
As an artist and an activist, I've been campaigning for safer routes for migration, particularly for women because they're more vulnerable. And I think we have to remember that this is an EU-wide problem. It's not just Italy. Humanitarians are being stopped from rescuing people at sea. And I also think we shouldn't forget the reasons why people are leaving their homes. For example, the work that I'm doing with women in the communities in the UK, they speak about rocket launching pads behind their houses, crossing different countries, being blocked at the border and held there. We've seen pictures of how migrants have been treated at borders by people, trying to keep them out.
Salam, I could see you nodding there as Selma was talking. Has this affected the numbers of people we're seeing?
I didn't understand your question. I couldn't hear it.
Have the numbers of people seeking asylum been affected by these reports of people like you and like Sean who are being prosecuted?
No, let me explain you one thing. There is people who's in danger in their countries, and they can't stay there. They have to run. And what's happening is the politicians think if they stop this humanitarian work, what we do in the sea, and let them drown, and they think the refugees are going to be afraid to come. And that's wrong, because the refugee doesn't have other solution than come over to Europe and take that risk. No one wants to take that risk with the children if they don't have to. And this is the problem we have. This is what we're facing, that they are criminalizing the humanitarian work that we provide. and let them die in the sea. How can you let children die and don't help them? I can't understand this. Like, you have a child drowning in front of you. Of course I'm going to help them. Even if they want to give me a life sentence for that, of course I'm going to jump into the water and rescue that child. And I've seen Sean's work. I've been actually, I witnessed Sean's work and Sarah Mardini's work. They're heroes. They shouldn't be in jail for rescuing people, for saving lives. Come on. That means if a person walk in the street somewhere in London and falls down, and we let that person die without giving first aid, that's good. But if we give the first aid, we'll sit in jail for that.
All right, Sean, I want to bring you into the conversation. But first, I want our audience to hear some of the politicians who actually think it is a good idea that not anybody should be able to rescue refugees or migrants who are at sea and get into trouble. This is the Interior Minister of Italy speaking here on his Facebook account. Have a listen to him.
I saw that the German government wrote me a letter today asking to reopen the ports and to let all the migrants disembark. No, absolutely not. And I think I can say it on your behalf. There is a German ship that, breaking the Italian laws for the umpteenth time. Like it or not, there are some laws voted by the Italian parliament that represents 60 million Italians. Therefore, on what grounds private ships managed by private companies decide how to organise human trafficking and decide how and when to break laws? Sea borders and land borders are the same.
So that is the Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini. Have a look at this headline. This is fresh from this week. He has decided to close the largest migrant camp in Europe. What is this doing to the population of people who feel they have to get to Europe, Sean? What have you seen?
Well, I completely appreciate what Salma was able to speak about in her video, and what Salam just mentioned is this idea that it's actually a wider European phenomenon, right? So if you take Salam's case and my case and the Seawatch case, you can see just individual occurrences. But if you step back and look at the wider scenario across Europe, you can see that there's 158 people being prosecuted for some kind of humanitarian assistance, and that's across the Union. And it's really important to kind of bring it to that level and ask, why is that happening? As it was alluded to, this push factor or the pull factor has been really nefarious in this topic. So, as Salam said, is the idea that because search and rescuers are in the sea and they provide life-saving services, they in some way exacerbate or promote smuggling, which of course is being framed as incredibly dangerous and bad, and in many cases smuggling is dangerous. However, to really tease out the question, why is it being framed like that? Why are humanitarians being blamed for this? The idea being that we're promoting because we're saving lives is absurd. What is essentially being said is if we don't save lives, we are in some way assisting or if we shouldn't be saving lives because it would hinder the flow of migrants, and it's a disaster of a policy.
Elisa, I wanted to share with you the thoughts of someone on YouTube who's writing to us live who has an idea for a solution. So this is Guadalupe Flores, who says aid workers face varied domestic laws, treated as humanitarians in one country and human smugglers in another. They need international designation as an aid worker. Your thoughts on that? Would that actually help?
It's an interesting idea, but what there is already is a framework for protecting human rights defenders. There is a declaration already passed by the UN General Assembly, which obliges states to ensure that there is an enabling, what is called an enabling environment, so that people who protect human rights can operate in safety and are actually protected by the law and facilitated in their helpful actions that assist all of us in society. Now, the European Union has adopted a very sort of unfair approach to these set of standards, international standards. It always requests, for example, South American states to protect human rights defenders in South America. But then when it comes to Europe, it's doing quite a different thing. So I think that we need to bring those international standards back to Europe and ensure that our leaders speak about these people in the way they should be treated as human rights defenders who need to continue doing their job. And they are, in fact, in most cases, doing something that authorities should be doing.
Salam, you did something very special for us earlier on today. You took your camera and you walked around Team Humanity so that we could see the work that you and your co-workers are actually doing on the ground on the island of Lesbos. I just want to take a little moment to have a look at that.
Then we'll go inside to this warehouse here. We built it as a huge playground. Here we have activities with the children. Here they're in queue to get a bracelet that they've been making there. This is a women's center, as you see. Here the women can be relaxed, enjoy themselves, do whatever they want. Only women here, as you see, watching movies, listening to music.
If you hadn't have been acquitted, Salam, you would not have been here today to be on this show, to show us that video, to do the work that you're doing. And now you've turned the tables. You're using the law to try and fight back. Can you explain how you're doing that?
You see, I've seen a lot of bad things. I see children drown in front of me. I buried 4 children, a mother and father, with my own hands. We couldn't save them all, but what we saved, they got a new life, a new chance. When they accused me for human trafficking, arrested me in the middle of the night in the sea, while I was trying to save humans from drowning, that destroyed me, part of me, in some ways, because I didn't understand. I thought we all here are humans helping other humans. I don't know which law forbidding for saving humans' lives, for saving children's lives. I don't understand that.
So Salam, we're in the very final part of this program, and this is so important. I'm going to push you. The European Court of Human Rights, you are going there because?
I'm going there. I'm accusing Greece for what they did to me. I am suing them for what they did to me. They destroyed 2 years of my life, and to make a huge sample of this of the situation. So other volunteers, human rights defenders, not gonna get through all these problems what I've been through.
We are going to be following.
Years.
We're going to be following your court case. Keep us up to date with that. And Sean, for you, you're waiting to see what will happen with your trial. What are your lawyers telling you? How do you feel?
I just wanted to quickly say something on the issue what Salam said about, pushing back and using strategic litigation to kind of promote the fact that humanitarian work is
Sean,
really valid.
you have to do it in a sentence. We're right at the end of the show. Go ahead.
If it's illegal to be in Europe without necessary documents because we've securitized the border, and if it's impossible to receive international protection without being in the country, then the only way that people can actually seek asylum here in Europe is to undertake dangerous journeys. So to accuse humanitarian work as being the pull factor is completely wrong. It is the legal basis underpinning the European security dynamic.
You certainly made your cases on the stream, if not in court. Thank you so much, Sean and Salam and Elisa, for being with us. Malika?
Amina here with the last word. Says politicians have been stoking fear and scapegoating refugees from time immemorial. This pattern is cyclical, and like time immemorial, they brandish their legal swords to threaten those that protect human life.
This conversation will continue online at AJ Stream. Thanks for watching. Luke and I will see you next time.